Hey, y'all. So tonight, I just finished leading the first official night of this new men's circle, and it was better than I ever could have imagined. So I just want to tell you about it. So yeah, we've got 5 men, and we did an intro night last week, and then one guy dropped out, another guy added on, so we still got 5 this week for our first night of 8 weeks, and it was insane. These guys are amazing. Like they picked up real quick on the whole deal, went super deep and got vulnerable and shared like things about themselves they probably haven't shared in a long time. And it felt so precious in the sense that it's magic. It's like when we open up, it's like I'm like shaking with excitement because it's like, oh my God, like these are like people's secrets, but like we can trust each other to hold it with like kindness and love and care. And also then offer reflections to help people see things about themselves that they didn't know. So basically, what we did in the group, I started by reading a little segment from this book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, just about like our different parts and how we can integrate them and become a whole person. And then I explained the format of the group, which is the check-in and the lover round. Um, Actually, I think we did a meditation first. So we just like dropped in and we did a breathing meditation. Um, and then, yeah, so then we did a love around, which is a check in, which is like what's going on for me emotionally in my body right now and my emotions, and also any judgments or feelings I might have about this group. So I just want to get that out there. There might have been some nervousness, there might have been some feelings about last week. So we talked about our feelings about the group. And then we did an accountability round, or I introduced the accountability round. That is the warrior round, which is just getting really clear about any agreements that we might have broken with somebody in the group, because that undermines trust. And then also any charges that may have come up. So if somebody said something that kind of triggered me or pissed me off, I don't want to bring that into the further rounds. I want to clear that up. And that's called a clearing. So we didn't have any accountability or clearings, but I just spoke to it and explained it. That's the warrior round, and just get really like clean and clear about any charges or emotional baggage that we're bringing in. Because then after that, it's called the magician round, where we can excavate some things. We can bring some things from the shadow into the light and start to work with them and transform ourselves into better people. So for that, in this week, I brought a bunch of prompts that like discussion topics, and we just first we went around 2 times, and the first question was, this is like get to know you things, but deep things. The first question was, what is a mask that I wear in the world, and what is underneath that mask? So that's like, maybe I or like I have a face, I have a character that I put on so that people like me, so that I survive in this world, and I'm hiding something. And so this circle is a sacred space to share who we really are, who we're afraid to show the world, so that we can again integrate that person into our those people and just acknowledge where we're wearing a mask, because the real danger is that if we don't know we're putting on a front, if we don't know that we're putting on a mask, then we don't even know ourselves, and then we're not being authentic, and then we're inherently dishonest and somewhat untrustworthy with our relationships. If I can't take the mask off when I need to drop in and be real, in times of life and relationships, we need to be real, and we need to be able to take that mask off and acknowledge who we really are and what's really going on for us. And can't just be wearing that mask all the time. So that was the first prompt. The second prompt was, what is my purpose? That's a very kind of masculine idea of like, why am I on this planet in this lifetime, and what am I here to do? So that was just an exercise about what our purposes are. And then the last question, which was great, I just kind of came up with this on the spot. Instead of doing a breakout like a dyad where one person shares and one reflects, we have 6 people, myself included. So what we did was this like daisy chain of reflection. One person shared and one person reflected, and then a different person shared and a different person reflected, but as a whole group. And what a reflection is just repeating back what you heard the person say. And this is an amazing skill, this ability to listen to understand as opposed to listen to respond. So often in our lives, in our relationships, there's a conversation that's happening and it's like ping pong. It's like, oh, I was at this restaurant the other day and I got food poisoning from the shrimp. And then the other person goes, oh my gosh, I had food poisoning one time from shrimp. Was it this restaurant? Oh my gosh, right? And so it's like listening to respond is one way of having a conversation, but listening to understand and to reflect is a much deeper way of allowing one person to just take up space and to hold space for the other person. So the prompt for this was, what's at risk, or what is a fear I have that's getting in the way of me accomplishing my mission and my purpose? And so that got really deep because people would share like, oh, I'm afraid of this and this. This is a fear that's potentially holding me back. And then the other person would reflect, I'm hearing you say that your fear is this and that it reminds you of this. And then that original sharer would be like, oh yeah, and this and this and this. So it's like allowing someone to like be heard, and then like, oh, I'm safe here. Now I can go a little deeper. Oh, and now I'm heard here. And now I can go a little deeper. And oh, I'm still being heard, and I'm nervous because I've never been this deep before, but I'm safe, and I can be deep and vulnerable and be safe. So, and that's all just from like, I'm hearing you say this. I'm hearing you say this. And what happens is when we need to reflect something and like reiterate something for someone, it needs to make sense, because it's very hard to like to say something when it doesn't make sense. So it makes sense to the person who's originally sharing it. But then when a person needs to reflect it, it might be missing a logical step because the person might not have articulated it well. So that's where a good question comes in. Like, I'm curious, like what you meant about that piece, because that doesn't seem connected. And then the original sharer says, oh, you're right. You know what I meant by that was this. And they connect that piece, and they're like, oh, like it's a new, like a revelation about what's actually going on for me when I hear that someone is confused about what I'm saying, and that they're genuinely curious and they're genuinely needing to understand what I'm saying. It shows me a lot about what's actually going on for me. So I hope that all makes sense. I know that my articulation is somewhat vague because there's confidentiality. I can't tell you actually what happened in the group. Just know that it was amazing. And yeah, I'm feeling so grateful for these men in this group. And it got a little risky. It felt like it got a little edgy for me, because we were pushing some edges, and it's our first group. And we went really deep, but everyone seems super, super down. So yeah, that's what we did. And we're going to keep doing it. This is just 1 week out of 8. So hopefully I'll be following up and letting you know how it goes. But for a first group with these 5 guys, amazing. So thanks for watching. I hope you're interested in this kind of work. I'm happy to share. You can tell I'm passionate about this. So if you have any questions or insights, feel free. This is a book that we're using kind of as a guidebook. There's this other one too. Yeah. So, I have like 5 years of experience doing this kind of stuff, but it's always helpful to like get new prompts and yeah, like remember, like, and yeah, this funny thing happened because the last question of what's holding you back, or no, what's at risk, and what's a fear of you that's keeping you from achieving your goal. There was a time at the end where it kind of got like it felt edgy, like I mentioned. And I was like, why are we doing this? This seems dangerous. This seems like it's like can cause some insecurity. And I didn't know what to say. So I just said that. I'm like worried because it seems like this could be dangerous to really like dwell in that fear. And then someone else reminded me, or it helped me remember that it's about integrating. So the analogy I was thinking of is like, if I'm driving on a cliff, let's say, it's dangerous, and my goal, my purpose is to like survive. And that's like life. Like we have a purpose, and there's a risk that we might fail, that we might fall off and die. And so in life, we might deny any fear or any risk. We might say like, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. But the truth is that I am afraid. And so what's happening is incongruity or inauthenticity. And I'm in denial about like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And people like that gets in the way of relationships because the real truth is I am afraid. And if I'm walking around this world being like, I'm not afraid, then I'm a wreck. And also, how can I have an authentic relationship and be vulnerable and honest when I have this like deep held fear? And so the purpose of a group like this is to have like, it's kind of like, um, let's pause the bike. Right now, we don't need to be going anywhere. Let's like get some scaffolding and some support systems and some rigging so that you're definitely not going to fall because you got support. And let's look over the edge and let's see like what that actually looks like. Because then we can own our fear. We can own our deepest fears and say, yeah, I might die alone. I might like be a failure at life. I might be totally delusional or whatever. And I can integrate that and be not be afraid of my fear, not be afraid of admitting that I have fears. Um, yeah, and then I can go through life more integrating, be like, yes, I'm afraid, and I'm going to succeed. Yes, I can't. I have fear, and that's okay because I'm going to succeed. And so, yeah, that's when it applies to real life, like real things that we um, have, like maybe fears that we've been suppressing for a long time. It is very uncomfortable, and that's why we need support in owning our truth. So yeah, I mean, this was just the first group. So as I said, it got pretty edgy, but that's why we're doing the work, and then we can integrate our full selves back into the full world. That is the dream. So yep, that's what we're doing. And thanks for watching. I hope you're as passionate about this as I am, or at least a little. So yeah, see you next time.